Welcome back to the Celtics Nation Rise podcast. I'm Griffin Aldrich. Alongside me is Seamus Zarlingo and David Caires, presented by Celtics Talk Weekly. And we just have some unfortunate news. And I hate having even the thought of making this podcast made me sick. I making this podcast, I never intended that we were gonna have an episode like this, but you guys saw the news. It's very unfortunate what happened, and we're diving deep into this because it really sucks. I'm still lost for words as you read this. Seamus, you want to read it for us?
Of course, Jayson Tatum. Jayson Tatum. This is the tweet we did not want to see after what we witnessed at the end of Game 4 at Madison Square Garden. Jayson Tatum today, which was yesterday as of this recording, underwent successful surgery to repair a ruptured right Achilles tendon. No timetable is currently available for his return, but he is expected to make a full recovery. Further updates will be provided when appropriate. So far, we have not seen any of those further updates, but later on down the line, I'm sure we'll hear more about Jayson Tatum and even from Jayson Tatum after this catastrophic Achilles injury.
Yeah, and we move into that second picture right here. Um, this made me. I it's been so unfortunate, but this made me a little. I wouldn't say feeling better, but Tatum posted about it. I'll quote this. Jayson Tatum said, "Thankful for all the love and support. As you see, he's there in the hospital. Uh, this breaks my heart. This just breaks my heart. If you guys see that, that just I'm gonna say that destroys my heart. Before I get into it too, I want to hear initial thoughts. David, I'll start off with you. How are you feeling after this?
Yeah, so thanks again for having me on. It was hard to put into words what it felt like right after we came on to the CNR recap. Right after the injury happened, it was a lot of emotions flying high, a lot of reflecting and stuff of that nature. Now that we're almost 48 hours removed from the injury, it's definitely still a shell shock. Um, it hurts for all different reasons. Obviously, it happening to the best player in our franchise. You wonder what the future will look like. I mean, you automatically start thinking about that. Like, it's not ridiculous to say that Tatum could have been on the trajectory to be a top five Celtic of all time, and he still absolutely could do that. It's just the future for him. There's a lot more question marks. Um, it just couldn't happen more to a more durable player in the NBA. I mean, it's ironic that two of the most durable players in the NBA are playing against each other in the series, Tatum and Mikal Bridges, but it's just tough to see it happen to Tatum, obviously on a team, a guy that we root for, a guy that fights the coaching staff to play every night and barely misses any games. So it's just all around tough. It's hard to see. I I don't think I'll ever forget that image that we just showed here of him getting carted out in a wheelchair, crying. Um, yeah, that's just a very hard sight to see. The videos have been surfacing as well of Brad Stevens giving him a hand off the floor and helping lift him on his way to the locker room. So yeah, it's just really painful. I feel for JT. I feel for his family, and I mean, it's just a lot more questions than answers right now, and that's just the scary and sad part.
Yeah, Seamus, what
This
about you?
situation, I mean, everything fell down at once, and fortunes changed on the night of May 12th, 2025, in the NBA. Not only with the Dallas Mavericks winning the NBA draft lottery and the chance to draft Cooper Flag at the beginning of the night, but at the end of the night, the Celtics they stare down a 3-1 series deficit to the New York Knicks, and on top of that, Jayson Tatum ruptures his Achilles, tears his Achilles tendon at the end of game 4 in the midst of his prime. This is what's so frustrating about this injury. Just so many things are frustrating about this injury. Jayson Tatum is 27. He is about 2 months into the age of 27. He turned 27 back in March. And now Jayson Tatum, for his entire age 27 season, going on 28 next year, he'll miss that entire season. And I was looking at other players last night, KD, Steph, LeBron. I was going, what were their age 27 seasons? What did they look like? Age 27 for Steph was 2015-16 when he unanimously won the MVP award. Age 27 for Kevin Durant was 2015-16 as well, when he nearly made the NBA Finals with the Oklahoma City Thunder after nearly knocking out the 73-9 Golden State Warriors. LeBron James, his age 27 season was 2011-2012 when he won his first NBA title. The point is here, age 27, that season is right in the meat of a player's prime. Age 27 is what we always talk about when it comes to players and reaching the peak of their career. So far, 24, 25 Tatum in terms of the year, 2024, 2025 Tatum, that was peak Jayson Tatum. And it's arguable he was coming off of one of his better, if not best games of his career in game 4 at MSG. The tough shot making in that game, I wasn't down with all the decisions being made in that game offensively, but the tough shot making was undeniable. The efficiency was undeniable. And Jayson Tatum exits the floor with a ruptured Achilles tendon. And now the future outlook for him, instead of ascending further into his prime, instead of the question being, what else can Jayson Tatum do? The question now becomes, can Jayson Tatum get back to the form in which we saw him at this season, 2 seasons from now? The next time Jayson Tatum will step foot on a basketball court for a meaningful game will be October of 2026, in all likelihood, unless he makes a Cam Akers return next year to the floor. But Jayson Tatum, that's a long ways away. And there are a lot of implications that are going to come out of this injury for nearly every player, person, staff member, owner within the Boston Celtics organization. Because this summer all of a sudden has been flipped on its head completely. Next year's team is expensive. The starting five of next year's team, and even including Tatum into that, knowing he's not even going to play next year, becomes $35 million more expensive next season. The Celtics ownership is not going to want to pay an astronomical luxury tax bill for a team that does not house Jayson Tatum, that simply does not seem to have a chance to win the title next year without one of their best players, without $50+ million in salary, just becoming inactive next year, simply inactive. There are going to be moves made this summer because of this injury to Jayson Tatum, and there are going to be a lot of implications in the future, including Jaylen Brown, his ability to take over the team next year, maybe even the possibility Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum, they might have just played their last game together. Who knows? Same with Al Horford. Al Horford, he's age 38. Has Al Horford and Jayson Tatum, did they just play their last game together? Kristaps, Drew, all these guys, did that group just play their last game together? It seems likely at this point in time. Now, with some names, we'll have to see moving forward if they'll still be here or not. The safest names on the roster right now, Brown, White, and Pritchard, most likely, but even them, even White and Brown, they could be moved at the right price. But Drew, KP, Cornette, Al, they're free agents. Drew and KP and Hauser, they're trade candidates this summer. It's probably going to happen. It's probably going to happen to the point where the Celtics front office moves off of some of these pieces this summer. And the Jayson Tatum injury has a lot to do with it. It will. You could make an argument that the Celtics could have ran it back next year and paid an astronomical bill and tried to win the title again. But the fact that Jayson Tatum's not on this roster, it changes everything for the Celtics. And I just worry for Jayson Tatum. I shouldn't even say I'm not even worrying. I'm just more of questioning. Can Jayson Tatum, can he return back to form? Can his explosiveness, his athleticism, his burst, his physicality, his verticality, can it all return to the same level next year? Or I shouldn't even say next year, 2 years from now. Can it all return to the same level? This Jayson Tatum injury in game 4 was a changing of the guard. It was a moment in NBA history. It was a moment in Celtics history when Jayson Tatum went down. That'll be one of the darkest days looking back at May 12th, 2025. That'll be one of the darkest days in Celtics history. One of the darkest days amongst, we know many dark days in the past, including injury and even worse, death, literal death. But the Jayson Tatum injury will rank up there with some of the darkest days, knowing number one, the coin flip, the coin flip. The series could have been 2-2. The series could have absolutely been 2-2 after game 4. The Celtics blow a 20-point lead in game 1, a 20-point lead in game 2, a 14-point lead in game 4. Double-digit leads in the third quarter, mind you. All these leads are in the third quarter. The third quarter, the Celtics have control of these games. And the Celtics piss away all of their opportunities. And on top of that, at the end of game 4, you think if this Celtics can just pull out this game, it's 2-2, it's tied, it's a best of 3 series. The Celtics are still very well on their way to winning the series and potentially still going back to back. Now, not only are the Celtics down in this series 3-1 and looking hopeless, even with the lead, whether a 20-point lead, a 14-point lead, just feels like the Knicks are always going to come back. The Celtics the other day, I mean, they needed a 31-point lead in order to pull out game 3. Even off of that 31-point lead, 10 points were shaved off that. But now the Celtics, they're down 3-1. And on top of that, Jayson Tatum, he's now going to miss the entirety of next season with an Achilles injury. I mean, it's just crazy how fast fortunes can change in the NBA. It's crazy how fast narratives can change in the NBA, because we went from potentially going back to back at the beginning of the night to when are we going to contend again? When are the Boston Celtics going to contend again? And is this iteration of the Celtics with Brown and Tatum and that duo, is this ever going to look the same? Has this era just ended in front of our faces with Jayson Tatum writhing in pain on the floor, collapsing to the ground, being helped off the floor, being wheeled to the locker room? Is it over? Is it all over for the Celtics and for the Brown and Tatum era of contention? That's the question that needs to be asked now. It's unfortunate, but it's reality.
It's truly heartbreaking, and I'm at a loss from words from even hearing you say that. And this is the worst part, I think, of it, is we don't want to, and we will get, I hope not, but are we going to get into that what if? Like, you look at it with Derrick Rose and those great talents, and you say, what if that injury never happened? Is it going to be the same thing with Tatum? It definitely will, on the stance that, say he does come back and he dominates still. It's what if he never got injured? What could have been the sky limit, or what could have been the ceiling, It's what if he never got injured. But it's the fact that you just said, the dark, scary thought of what if he's out of his prime? What if he becomes washed? Now, I don't want to say that word, but it's the truth. This is not an injury to take lightly. I mean, you look at Dame, what just happened with him. He's on his way out as it is. All right. It's so unfortunate that it happened to Dame, but he's on his way out. He's been in his prime. He's had opportunities, and people are going to reflect on his career. But Tatum, like you said, peak in his prime. The positive thing that I look at is this happened to Durant, and you look at Durant and you're like, okay, it happened later in his career, but he was still able to have success after. But that's not always the fact. And he is a durable player. And you look at Tatum and you look at, when he was battling with this injury, kind of not this exact injury, but an injury similar to this against this Sacramento Kings. And then you see him trying to fight back to get right back in the lineup against the Phoenix Suns. And this is truly heartbreaking. I mean, I can't stop scrolling on my For You page and tearing up from the edits I'm seeing of Tatum. This is, you guys know that this is bigger than basketball. And I think it sucks. Injuries suck every year, but this year has been terrible. I mean, I think two of the names too is what happened with Victor Wembanyama with that blood clot, and now Jayson Tatum, a guy who we've talked on this program so many times of him becoming the face of the NBA. And now what does this come to? Like, this is truly heartbreaking. And I was going to mention, Seamus, names that you said, but this has happened to a lot of players. And this took a lot of players out of their prime and brought a slower end to their career. And I don't want this to be a what if, like a Derrick Rose, and have this injury be with Tatum, but it's out of our control now. Like, this is an event that we could look, like you said, Seamus, can look back on and be like, wow, this was really one of the darkest days in Boston because we had this great talent and it all collapsed in front of our eyes. And you take it for granted. I mean, this Celtics team, I refused, and you guys know it, I refuse to talk about the potentials of moves we have to make. I refuse to talk about it on this program because I couldn't taste the thought of it, But you look at it, and like you already mentioned, Seamus, too, this might have been the last time we see Tatum with a lot of these faces. And the starting five won't look the same next year. It's just how it's going to be. It's just how it's going to be. And it's so unfortunate that the Celtics, like you guys said, going into playoffs, we were hyped. We were like, Banner 19 time. It's time. Our emotions were through the roof. Now it just essentially all collapsed in front of our eyes. And it's heartbreaking, and I'm still lost for words. David and I, if you go watch that CNR recap, we were heartbroken. I mean, that night, and you take Banner 18 for granted, but like that, those were some good times in your life, and that's gonna be a story to look back on. And again, you're gonna look at Banner 18 and you're gonna be like, what happened to 19? And look what just happened. So there's a lot of tough conversations we do have to come into on this episode 38, because it's a question, and I'm going to ask you guys this, is do we rebuild around Tatum again? Do we trade assets for young talent? Do we maybe eventually make a move so we get Cooper Flag? Obviously, you mentioned him going to Dallas, getting the first pick in the NBA draft, but what do we do from here? I'm interested to see what you guys think. David, what do we do from here now at this point?
Yeah, so it's not what I want us to do. I don't think it's what any of us want the Celtics to do, but it's what I think we will do this offseason. I've been pretty convinced all season that Holiday was definitely going to be traded this summer. Given all the implications with staying in the second apron, it's tough to hang on to all these hefty contracts, and Holiday just unfortunately seems like a prime candidate to get traded due to his age, his contract, and such. So I don't think we can get too much back for Holiday personally. That might be a wild thing to say, but just the optics are he's a 35-year-old aging wing who just battled a lot of injury problems this season and last season with the Celtics. He does have that championship pedigree and that leadership, but it'll be interesting to see how much teams value that. So I think if we move him, we're only probably moving him with the idea that we can get some draft picks for him. I wouldn't have said maybe before this series or before this playoff run that Porzingis was going to go, but I do think Porzingis is also going to get traded. I believe that the hope is that they can trade him and maybe get a draft pick and a contributor in some fashion. I think that the biggest theme of this offseason for the Celtics is going after players that are durable and are reliable and that can stay on the court. Yes, we had a lot of bad luck with like injuries with Porzingis and such, but and yes, we did just win this title with this team from last year, this team that we're watching right in front of us that we watched all this season. But the fact of the matter is our top six only played 25 games in the regular season together. So I think, and I mean, we just saw it all come crashing down. The theme of the season was next man up, versatility, getting big games from people off the bench. And then, boom, first game of the playoffs, Tatum hurts his wrist. Hauser just hurt his ankle in this series. Jaylen Brown had that moment against the Magic where he dislocated his finger, and then Porzingis. That's just been the story since February. What the heck is going on with Porzingis on and off dealing with this illness? Um, in my eyes, I think we're going to target players and trades, or maybe I don't know what we can do free agency wise, but we're going to target people this summer that can stay on the court. I think that's just the biggest name of the game. And then I would target someone like, unfortunately, Sam Hauser to get traded as well and get his $45 million off the books across 4 years, or I think it might be 3 years now remaining. But I think if we trade someone like Hauser, you have someone like Shireman who can slot into that Sam Hauser role. Again, we didn't see much of Shireman to start the season, but I would say from those last couple months, March, April, and the limited minutes he gave us, I think a lot of people were impressed with what they saw. And if Shireman doesn't live up to the hype hypothetically next year, then maybe it's a combination of him and a Drew Peterson that can man the load for what we lose with Hauser. But I would say Holiday, Porzingis, and Hauser are my prime candidates to get traded. And I don't even want to try and guess rotations just because we don't know what we would get back in those trades. Would it just be draft picks? But I think we're going to go after getting depth pieces back for those players and just making sure that we can field a team next year that can stay on the floor, because I mean it's really biting us in the butt right now.
Yeah,
100%. And the three players you rolled out right there, Porzingis, Holiday, and Hauser, 100% those are going to be the three players the Celtics look to move this summer because number one, Porzingis. Okay, so Porzingis, he is a more movable deal right now. Only 1 year left on his deal at $30 million next year. He's basically an expiring contract. The Celtics are going to be they're going to be trying to move later on in time. And not only is it going to be an expiring deal, a team can look at it and go, okay, $30 million for Kristaps Porzingis. It's going to come off our books next season. Maybe we get him at a cheaper price. Not only that plays a factor in potentially moving Kristaps, but the fact Kristaps is a center. We've seen a lot of teams out there this year just desperate for big man help, and that could be the case of the Celtics as well if they do in fact trade Kristaps Porzingis. Because if you trade Kristaps Porzingis, you're only looking at a center rotation of Kata, and that's pretty well it right now because the other three, Tillman, Horford, Cornette, they're all free agents this summer. So in terms of what the Celtics we'll be trying to do from a big man positioning standpoint. I mean, there's going to be a lot of shakeup with the big man core and the big man rotation, but a lot of teams out there need bigs, and they can certainly look at Porzingis and go, okay, we need a big, we need a versatile big who can space the floor, shoot the ball, deter shots, and he's also on an expiring deal. He's a $30 million contract. He's on an expiring deal. However, looking at it from the Celtics perspective, I mean, this Porzingis timeline has just been atrocious. Now, next year, if the Celtics come into the season with Porzingis, it's completely possible they keep him on the roster because of how I just outlined. The team will have zero bigs. It's possible they keep Porzingis on the roster and they become the team that wants him at a cheaper price later on in time. However, right now, Porzingis' availability, he's going into his 30s. I mean, they're treating him the same as Al Horford this season, who's 38. They're treating him the same as Drew Holiday, who's 34, 35 years old this season. And Porzingis, he's only 29 going on 30. I don't see his durability getting better in his 30s, especially when it's been a problem his entire career. And look, I look at it on a scale of when are you available during the most crucial moment of the season or the most crucial moments of the season, particularly in the NBA playoffs. Last year, Kristaps Porzingis misses over half of the playoff run, most of the Celtics playoff run, and comes down with two different injuries during the playoff run, one against the Miami Heat and then the other against the Dallas Mavericks later on in time in the NBA Finals. He suffers two separate injuries in the playoffs last year in 2024, isn't available for most of the playoff run there. And then this season, in the Magic series, he looks horrendous for 5 games. And then this series, he's dealing with an upper respiratory illness that apparently he hasn't kicked in the last 2 months, which makes zero sense to me because the last time he was dealing with an illness, and apparently the two illnesses were connected in some weird shape and form, because the weird part about this is Porzingis, he misses 9 of 10 games with this illness, 8 straight earlier in the season in March because of an illness. But then he comes back and wins 3 straight player spotlights. And he's actually available for the last week of the season. But then now all of a sudden in the playoffs, he's in the
That's
Magic series, he looks
that's
horrendous. And then
ridiculous.
in the
That
Knicks series, he's not even available.
can I
And what
say
also
what?
doesn't make sense is how is he playing 14 minutes and 18 minutes? If you're playing 14 and 18 minutes, how are you not able to play 20 minutes, 25 minutes? It makes no sense. And he's coming off the bench for the Celtics. So in just the gauge of when Porzingis is available, he's not available at the most crucial moments of the season. And really, we're looking at a timeline of if the Celtics, this is where I asked the big question, when are the Celtics going to contend again? The thought is, well, next year it's probably going to be a step back year. But when Jayson Tatum comes back, are the Celtics going to be in position to contend again? If so, can we rely on Porzingis 2 years from now to be healthy in the playoffs when he hasn't been healthy the last 2 playoff runs and he doesn't have a good track record his entire career of staying healthy? I'm very skeptical on Kristaps Porzingis making a true impact in the future, but I think he's an obvious name the Celtics will look to move off because he's going into his 30s. His durability has not been good, and he's a center that other teams can talk themselves into, and he's an expiring contract. If the Celtics trade him this offseason, they could actually get something for Kristaps Porzingis, whereas if he goes expired, you let him walk, you get nothing for him. That's a worse reality than simply moving him this offseason. But the other names on that list, Sam Hauser, he's gone. I mean, the reason Sam Hauser is gone is number one, he's probably the most tradable contract of the three, $10 million. The thing is with Hauser, his play does not meet the value of his contract. The value of his contract is around $10 million. But his play, he was very inconsistent this past season. Now he did shoot 40% from three. Teams can talk themselves into trading for that for sure. But we know even though he shot 40% from three, he was very inconsistent this season. Just defensively seemed to take a step back. Was not the durable player we've seen Hauser be in the past. He did deal with a couple of injury issues throughout the season, of course, all capped off by him not being available in this Knicks series because of that freak ankle injury in game one. But Hauser, his value, the value of his deal and the value of his play just doesn't match. The value of his deal is up here and his play is down here. If there's a discrepancy and the Celtics are trying to cut costs, that's just an obvious player the Celtics will try to move on from. And there will certainly be teams out there looking for shooting that could talk themselves into a Sam Hauser acquisition. But I will say, Drew Holiday, he is the tough one in my mind. Despite him probably owning out of the three in my mind the most, the most. If you were to look at Porzingis, Holiday, and Hauser, I believe Holiday has the biggest impact on the team right now. However, this playoff run has not been great for Holiday outside of the early portion of the Magic series. I mean, he's just been getting cooked in this Knicks series. It's very frightening to see how awful White and Holiday have been on the defensive end of the floor at certain times. Now, the defense for the Celtics was okay in the first 3 games, but there were obviously moments in games 1, 2, and 4, where down the stretch the defense was just utterly horrendous. And Brunson, no matter who his primary defender was, Holiday or White, just getting whatever he wants. And Holiday, I still think he's the biggest. I still believe he has the biggest impact of the Porzingis, Holiday, Hauser trio. But at the same time, I think he's been showing his age a lot this season, more so than we thought. That's just the bottom line with Drew Holiday. Is he showed his age many more moments in this season than we thought we were going to see from him, and even in this playoff series, it just feels like the Celtics are old. Feels like the Knicks are quicker, faster, more athletic, tougher. Feels like the Celtics are slow and rickety at different moments, and that's because of ultimately guys like Al Horford, Drew Holiday, who are nearing the age of 40, literally closer to the age of 40 than they are to the age of 20. And that's just the way in which the NBA rolls. I mean, guys' career they flame out, and guys, of course, take a step back. That's, I believe, we're in the midst of seeing Drew Holiday take that step back. The thing about that, though, is what's so tough is, David, you kind of already outlined it. Drew Holiday, I don't see many suitors out there for Drew Holiday who are looking at him going, oh, he just regressed this season. He took a 30% dip from his most efficient shot was the corner three in 23-24. It made him so effective with the Celtics. That dipped by 30%, and he went way under league average for one of his best spots on the floor this past season. Regressed in that regard, regressed in all these other categories within his game. He's going on the age of 35, and he has a player option worth $37 million 3 seasons from now. So just looking at that contract, you're looking at it going, all right, he's shown regression, he's aged, and Holiday is owed $37 million 3 years from now. Feels like a Kemba Walker situation in a sense where it feels like, oh, Kemba Walker, maybe not so productive anymore. And in a couple seasons, we're owing him a basically a max salary. That is going to call for a transaction. That's why Drew Holiday is a candidate to be moved, is just the money he's owed later on down the line. And he's kind of the same boat as Hauser, where his value and his contract are starting to not quite meet up. You could say last season it met up just fine. This season it met up fine for the team as well. But into the future, when the team is trying to cut costs and cut back on the luxury tax bill, that contract is in the same boat as Hauser's, where Hauser's value on court is down here and the contract value is up here. That's going to be the same with Drew Holiday. So those are three of the easiest candidates where the Celtics could, I mean, to me, it's going to be hard to move on from those guys from the standpoint of just what are you getting for Porzingis, Holiday, and Hauser? And obviously, the Celtics, they're over their second apron. They're not going to be able to aggregate salaries in order to get deals done. So they theoretically they can't do a Hauser and Porzingis put $40 million together and get, a $35 million player and cut costs that way. The Celtics aren't going to be able to do it. But that's just the question here of what can the Celtics and what can Brad Stevens in the front office do with Porzingis, Holiday, and Hauser to actually get relative value out of them, if not future value out of all three of those players? And can all three of those players even be moved? Because there's flaws in all three of them that you could easily say, okay, well, other teams they're not exactly pursuing Porzingis, Holiday, or Hauser. Brad Stevens and the Celtics front office, they're going to be shopping these guys. And so other teams are going to have the leverage in terms of like, we know you want to get rid of them. And it's not necessarily that we want them, but you want to get rid of them and we're going to help you out here. And it's possible instead of the Celtics getting back a boatload of picks, it's possible the Celtics could be trading off picks to trade some of these contracts and salaries off the books. That is certainly a possibility. I want to bring up though, to me, the three safest names on the roster right now: Peyton Pritchard, number one, $6 million deal. He is the opposite of the Hauser Holiday situation. His value on court is up here, and his contract is down here. I mean, it is just one of the most. It's the biggest bargain deal in the NBA. Makes $6 million to be the best player off the bench in the NBA. That's just a bargain for the Celtics. But aside from Pritchard, Derek White, going into his 30s, durable player, crucial player for the Celtics. He's obviously younger than Holiday, and I think the Celtics, if they want to really get frisky and maybe build for the future, they could look at moving on from Derek White. But I believe Derek White's a player where you could look at him and go, okay, 2 seasons from now, if Tatum comes back and the Celtics are frisky enough to be in contention, Derek White could be a player that could still make an impact on the 26-27 team, the way he's making an impact now. I think Derek White, he's a safer name. I think Jaylen Brown is safe as well because, number one, Jaylen Brown has a massive deal, and people could point at that and go, okay, well, Jaylen Brown, he has a massive deal. Maybe we look to move off that massive deal because he's actually in the Hauser Holiday boat where it's like, okay, the on-court value, it's much closer. It's like right here, contract way up here. It's not as big of a discrepancy, I will say, with Brown, but he is owed $60-70 million in the future, and it's just a hefty deal for Jaylen Brown and the player he actually is. But that being said, he'll have many opportunities to prove himself and what kind of player he is, as particularly the number one guy next season with Jayson Tatum out of the lineup for majority, if not all, of the season. But Jaylen Brown, he's a safe name though, just because I believe other teams that his contract is so large, people will say, okay, well, you can move off of him because of that salary, maybe cut costs with Brown there. But it's like I don't. How many other teams are just signing up for a Jaylen Brown $60-70 million deal number one. And number two, I think this is partially why you have two superstars for the Celtics. Obviously, you want two of them together in tandem, but if one of them goes out, this is the luxury of the Celtics. Jayson Tatum goes out, it's not like the Nuggets or the Bucks, where if they see Giannis go out, they don't really have anybody else. I mean, you could say Damian Lillard, sure, but and then same with the Nuggets. Jokic goes out, you could say Jamal Murray, sure, but they're just not carrying the team in the same way that Jokic or Giannis, the way they carry their teams, the Nuggets and the Bucks. Jamal Murray and Damian Lillard just wouldn't be able to get it done as much as Giannis and Jokic. Well, with the Celtics, with Tatum going out of the lineup, you have a similar styled superstar right next to Tatum who's maybe less efficient and less able to do some of the things on the offensive end of the floor that Tatum does. But Jaylen Brown is still very much a superstar in his own right. And you have that luxury if you're the Celtics to, oh, Jayson Tatum goes out of the lineup. Well, guess what? Jaylen Brown is just going to slot in and play the exact same position. And yes, we're going to have less depth, but the Celtics could look, I will say they won't look the same next year, but in terms of running a similar style where obviously this year Tatum was playing point forward, you can see Jaylen Brown play point forward next year. That's a huge possibility if you're the Celtics, and Jaylen Brown can carry a bigger load. And so I just think from that standpoint, just the luxury of what the Celtics have in JB and just the cultural impact he has on Boston and just his entire career in Boston so far with the Celtics, how it's played out, I think Jaylen Brown is a relatively safe name. And think about this too, just selling tickets, merchandise, jersey sales, advertisement. You're going to need somebody to advertise the team next year when Jayson Tatum's out. Jayson Tatum, think about how many Jayson Tatum jerseys. I mean, come on, bring it up, Griffin. The Jayson Tatum jersey. Exact. Look how many Jayson Tatum jerseys are out there. Look how many people come to the games. Right. Look how many people come to games just simply to see Jayson Tatum. I mean, people aren't going to games to see Torrey Craig and Baylor Sharman and Sam Hauser. I mean, they're going to see Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And if you don't have Jayson Tatum in the lineup, you need somebody to kind of showcase your franchise, and that guy is going to be Jaylen Brown next year. So those are going to be three of the safer names on the Celtics roster. As for everybody else, I mean, Cornette, free agent, Horford, free agent. Those are your two biggest free agents if you're the Celtics. I know we have a couple of others, but those two primarily are going to be the big guns on the free agency market for the Celtics, because Horford, he could simply retire at this moment because of Tatum's injury. I mean, I'm skeptical that Tatum and Horford will ever see the same court again, because by that time Horford will be 40. Although I will say Horford, you don't want to be relying on him for 30 minutes in a series, but could he play 12, 13, 15 minutes in a series later on down the line if the Celtics have a better big man rotation? Sure, maybe he is still on the roster, but he's going to have to be re-signed this offseason as well as Cornet. And I think Cornet's actually going to get some money out there on the market somewhere, although the playoff showing wasn't great for Cornet's future salary sheets. I'll say that as far as that goes. But the Celtics, big offseason on the horizon, and just from a roster perspective, I mean, Jayson Tatum's injury changes this whole thing. It's crazy because to me, the Celtics front office and the ownership, there's no right move right now. It's impossible to really go out there and make the right move, because we all want the Celtics to reap benefits out of Porzingis and or dividends rather out of Porzingis, Holiday, and Hauser. But the reality is, it could just be a fire sale, and the Celtics get nothing for those guys, and the Celtics are just a carcass of a team next year, and they might find themselves in the same position as the Philadelphia 76ers. There's another side of this, though, where the Celtics could be really effing good next year, and in a weaker Eastern Conference, ever more so, with potentially Giannis heading out west next year. Who knows what's going to happen with that situation? The Celtics could find themselves in the 2 seed next year. They could find themselves back in the same exact position without Jayson Tatum, maybe with a different team, but amongst a weaker conference. You never know what the Celtics can do next year. They could either be fringe contenders or they could be literally in the lottery. I mean, there's no right answer to where this could go with Jayson Tatum out of the lineup, and just the tax implications, the luxury tax implications, and the salary cap implications meeting the Celtics, and particularly the Celtics ownership right now.
Yeah, I gotta say this again. I'm just so heartbroken. Like, this sucks. This sucks. If you're, I know how other people feel now because this really sucks, but you guys pretty much summed it up. I mean, you look at it with Sam Hauser, David, I think you already mentioned it. Baylor Shireman coming up. I think he's going to get a lot of minutes next year, and you're going to see a lot from Baylor Shireman, which I'm not, even before the Tatum injury, we talked about Sam Hauser potentially not even being on this team next year, and talking about Baylor Shireman getting that role and like minutes, but um, sorry about
All
that.
right. No, that was me. That was me. That was me. We a little audio issue there. There we go.
We're
We're
all
good.
good.
We're good. Sometimes it happens.
We're good. We're
ESPN,
good.
$1 billion company. They do
Yeah.
it too.
No, but you see Sam Hauser probably being on the move, and what kills me is seeing Holiday and Porzingis in those names, because those were the big moves that we made, and I was so. This is a funny story. I remember when that happened. That's the first time I was kind of introduced to Celtics Talk Weekly, because I was in school and I was like, I gotta watch something to get me hyped up about this. So I turned it on and I was like, yep, this will do. But I hate to say it, but and the Red Sox know this word very, 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 very. They're very well known to this word. Next year could potentially be a bridge year for the Boston Celtics, and we hate to even imagine that coming out of my mouth. The Boston Celtics could potentially have a bridge year next year with Tatum being out, and I hate to say that because ever since I don't even know how long ago, Boston Celtics every year in title contention. Oh, we're going for the championship this year. Next year, the fact that those words come out of my mouth is the Boston Celtics could potentially be a bridge. It could be a bridge year for the Boston Celtics. That kills me to say, because, even we had to come into this conversation at some point too on who do you move? Do you move Porzingis, Holiday? What do you do? But it's the fact that we're going to have to come with this conversation. Not, we probably had to have this, but not after one more year too. It's going to be like, we need to think about this now. Are we already going to go into a rebuild? Like, what's going to go on? There's so many question marks around the Boston Celtics now. And it kills me because I love Porzingis. I love Drew Holiday. Those are players that I still can't get over that we have on the team. And I haven't, I haven't really, it hasn't even hit me yet, even after Banner 18 that we have Porzingis and Drew Holiday. Like, looking at those names, I used to be like, oh, they're great. And then all of a sudden the Boston Celtics have them. So it hurts. It hurts. But for me, I think moves that I would like to see is I think we could potentially, build up some picks. I hope. I think that's what you're going to see the route of the Celtics do. You have AJ DeSumo, or however you say his name. I don't know how to say his name. You guys know what I'm talking about.
Bansa?
Whatever. Why did I say DeSumo? That's like,
I was like, Io DeSunmu? Like, what are we moving?
No.
We're moving Hauser for Io?
No, AJ, how do you say again?
AJ DeBansa?
Yeah, he's a potential name. I see the Celtics maybe potentially. He's had a lot of contact at TD Garden too. So who knows? Looking down the road, but again,
that would be just. Imagine that we somehow lose Tatum and we wind up with the first overall pick and DeBansa, and we have DeBansa and Tatum and Brown. Like, that would be just like, whoa. I mean, with the that's I don't know what the Mavericks have fallen into here.
It could.
But then, see, that's where it's like, okay, dumb luck. Like, we cannot build off of dumb luck. Okay, I'm not in favor of the route of just being like, hey, let's suck next year, and maybe we'll get a top pick. It's like, we can't do that. It's not the right way.
And that's why because you still need to assert your dominance. You need to show that you are still a team that's willing to compete even without Tatum. That's what the Boston Celtics need to do. But this is the fact that I'm getting into, where it could be a bridge year depending on who we have to move. And you guys already mentioned it. What do the Celtics receive from those deals? Because it might not be a lot. And that's what frustrates me. But I'm saying this: if we have assets in the future that we could potentially trade to get picks like that, or to trade, the night of draft night, I'm all for that. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be, the Boston Celtics are going to trade like Jaylen Brown for Cooper Flag. No, I do think this is a discussion for another time, and we'll talk about this in the off season when draft night comes up. We're going to get Coach AJ on here again and stuff like that. But I do think this is a hot take. I'm just saying this so we could stop. It might be really hot take, but I don't want to. It kills me to think about Tatum, so I want to be a little happy. I think one day in his career, Cooper Flag will be a free agent. He might come to Beantown someday. Definitely not right now, though. But I saw a little smile on your face, Seamus. You like the idea of that someday,
I'm smiling because I'm like, this is like a conversation for like 2033.
I know.
Like 20.
This is a long time from now.
Like
David
Tatum will
knows
be what? Like Tatum will be in his mid 30s.
35.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah,
Passing the
it's like
torch to the main native. Who knows?
Yeah,
quite a ways away. It's like, what if? I mean, I'm looking at I'm like, what about like Paulo? It's like, hey, Paulo and Tatum, like they're guys. Like, hey, maybe they link up when Paulo becomes. But see, here's the thing: you need to wait like 7, 8 years, and even then, it's like nowadays the NBA, the rules that's been or I shouldn't even say the rules, but some of the standards that have been put in place, like the Supermax deals. I think the Supermax deals now they've kind of the Supermax has opened up a precedent that's not good for the NBA, which is players do stay in their markets typically an extra year to sign that Supermax, but once they do, they are so gung ho on trade me, get me out of here. We've seen it with Damian Lillard. We've seen it with other players where it's just, oh, I get the Supermax. Bradley Beal's another one where they get the Supermax, and these are players who would leave in free agency if they were able to. It used to be you got the same max from say Durant's free agency. The max from Oklahoma City and the max from Golden State was relatively similar. Now those maxes are just, I mean,
completely
the Supermax is up here and the regular is down here. So naturally, guys aren't going to leave in free agency anymore, and they're the most savvy financial move for them is to sign the Supermax and then afterwards potentially negotiate themselves out of a destination. That's what's kind of been the tough part about Supermaxes in the NBA is just that precedent that's been opened up, and it's been more about players wanting out than just players simply leaving. Otherwise, like they would leave in free agency if they could get the same money from staying, but they simply don't, and they make their way out of a different market. But here's the thing about the Tatum injury, and talk about looking ahead towards the future, like Cooper Flag. That's again like we would have to trade for Cooper Flag later on
I
the
know
line.
we would, but I mean, I'd trade for Cooper Flag. Who would you? No, all right, that's
No.
conversation.
Nope, not going down that tangent. You're like,
We're
who would
not going
you?
down that.
Who would we trade in 2030? Who's
Yeah,
actually going to be on the
it's
team
like
in
no,
2030? We're
no.
going to trade
But
some 10th graders.
Some
but
10th graders is
I'll
crazy.
I'll say about this Tatum injury, the uncertainty surrounding this injury is just beyond. I mean, it is. I don't. There's no other way to describe it. I mean, the uncertainty is as uncertain as it could get for the Celtics because number one, Jayson Tatum is going to become the poster child for how a superstar in his prime comes back from an Achilles injury. We don't really have many examples of superstars in the modern era coming back at the height of their careers from an Achilles injury. And it's not so much that I'm saying, okay, we don't have examples of stars coming back and playing well. I'm saying we just don't have any examples specifically in the modern era of a superstar at the height of their powers at age 27 go out of the lineup with an Achilles tear. We just don't have many examples of that whatsoever. And right now, Tatum to me is in the position to become the poster child of how that injury looks moving forward. Tatum could be a pioneer within Achilles recoveries in the future when it comes to basketball players potentially tearing their Achilles. Jayson Tatum could be the poster child of, oh look, Jayson Tatum, he tore his Achilles at age 27. He came back at age 28, and he was the same player once again. That's completely plausible for
Can
Jayson
I
Tatum, and
ask
that could
something?
set a precedent. But not many examples of superstars. Just to name a couple, Kobe and KD, they were a little bit older. just in general, they were in their 30s. I mean, that they weren't quite at the height of their powers, especially Kobe. He was on the downswing of his career. KD a little more so, but he was still 31, 32 years old. Clay, he has the ACL and Achilles injury, so that's kind of unfair to judge Clay. He misses 2 straight seasons. He tears his ACL as well. He's really not the same after those injuries, but again, you have an ACL injury on top of that, so it's kind of it's kind of hard to judge that one. DeMarcus Cousins and John Wall, they're the two right now that you could point at and go, okay, they tore theirs in the middle of their prime. Torn Achilles, middle of their star prime. Star players were on the up and up, and they were ascending, if not already at their prime. Cousins and Wall, however, DeMarcus Cousins and John Wall, oddly enough, college teammates at Kentucky, go Wildcats. John Wall, he's a different style of player than Tatum, as is Boogie Cousins. Like Boogie Cousins, DeMarcus Cousins, he played a very forceful game. He had a lot of weight on his body. He was very bulky. So when he tore that Achilles, naturally a player like DeMarcus Cousins would struggle coming back from that, as well as John Wall, who was a smaller guard who, and he's 6'4", but smaller guard who relied on explosiveness and burst and athleticism and quickness getting downhill. Once that went away within John Wall's game, he was done in the NBA. So with both of those players, not good returns on the Achilles in the middle of their primes, John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins. However, both of those guys just play different styles than Jayson Tatum. And Jayson Tatum, Rob was mentioning this earlier when we recorded. Rob, he was mentioning how Jayson Tatum has a Kevin Durant-esque type of game. And Kevin
Yes.
Durant, because of the way he played, now, was he the same coming back from his Achilles injury? Not quite, but his efficiency in terms of his jumper and making tough shots and being a superstar player. I mean, all the efficiency stats stayed the same, if not got better for Kevin Durant. Of course, the eras of the NBA they were changing in that time period, still are. But Kevin Durant came back from that injury relatively well, and he's kind of the one real shining success story of coming back from an Achilles injury, and that's what Tatum is going to be trying to model now at age 27. And it just raises the question, though, of what level does Tatum even come back at when he comes back in 26, 27? He won't be back until October 2026. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of
Question.
time.
So is that what you're comparing to what Rob said? 8 to 9 months. That's what I. Sorry.
I'm not, no, I don't care about people are like 8, 9 months, but he's out next season. All right.
Oh,
He just
100%.
ruptured his Achilles. The
You
only
don't.
way he's coming back, it's like last week of the season, playoffs. And it's like, why are we bringing Tatum back if we're playing 70 games and going into the playoffs? And it's like, no, don't risk it. It's like he
No.
could be out for longer and you could mess him up even further. It's like, just next season, it's a punt on Tatum being available. And so I'm looking ahead at opening night 26, 27. That's
I agree.
25, 26 is next for Tatum. It's like the 25, 26 season, for as just heartbreaking as it is, just gone for Jayson Tatum, unfortunately. And then October 2026 is when he's actually going to return to the basketball floor. But that's a long time. That's a long time from now. That's 2 off seasons from now. 2 off seasons. I mean, multiple transaction windows. If you think about it like that, at least 4 transaction windows until Jayson Tatum comes back onto the floor. And I'll say this: the thing that makes this job so tough this summer in this offseason for Brad Stevens in the front office and the Celtics ownership and Bill Chisholm taking over alongside Wick Grosbeck, we don't know what Jayson Tatum will even look like coming back. And I don't even what does it look like when Brown is the guy for the year for a whole entire season? Brown is the number one option. He gets all the usage percentage. What does it look like when Brown gets the ball for an entire year and then has to integrate back in with Jayson Tatum? Is he going to want to be unselfish and give the ball back up to Jayson Tatum? I know they've played 8 seasons together, but at the same time, when you go through a year, maybe Jaylen Brown has an awesome year. It's hard to deflate that ego and take a step back and allow Tatum to come back in the lineup. And even under that circumstance, it's like, how will Tatum even look? Will he be the guy? Will there be an argument? When Hayward came back, the huge problem with Hayward, it was Morris, Tatum, and Brown deserved the starting spot specifically from Hayward. I mean, Tatum, Brown, and Morris, they deserved more usage than Hayward in 18-19, but Hayward was force-fed because he had the contract, he had the status. The Celtics wanted to use him because they just signed him, a max free agent a year prior, and they force feed Gordon Hayward, and then that disrupts the entire flow of that team. And it feels like the Celtics, now it didn't feel like they lost 2 seasons, but in terms of with Hayward, it felt like they lost 2 seasons with Hayward. Could that happen with Tatum and Brown, where Tatum comes back into the lineup and Brown and Tatum, maybe that duo that's always kind of been redundant to each other, and they found ways to play off each other at perfect moments and perfect times? Do they come back, and are they just not as great of a duo anymore? How does that dynamic work out? Like right now, it's clear hierarchy is Tatum here, Brown here. When it comes back, is it what do we know? And that's just what makes the job so impossible for the front office this summer, is just building for that moment. I think they're expecting Brown and Tatum. Okay, we're gonna revamp it around them when Tatum comes back into the lineup. But how do you do that? And how do you put the correct pieces around Brown and Tatum? I'll even mention this. This could be this next season could be a tryout for Jaylen Brown. It could be, if he performs just beyond, it's like, oh, we're keeping Brown. He's our guy, blah, blah. And now if Jaylen Brown's efficiency is down here and he can't put up the numbers and the performances to carry this team the way Tatum and himself have these past couple of years, like you could see a scenario where Brown, maybe the offseason before Tatum comes back, it's like, what if Brown is moved next season after the results play out as they do? It's very tough to gauge what it will look like in October of 2026 when Jayson Tatum comes back in the lineup, because you have a whole offseason window here. You have an entire season next year where the team will look completely different and Brown will have his slot, and then you just don't know the factor of Tatum when he comes back, what he's going to look like whatsoever. It's a very tough moment going from, oh, we're going back to back with this core. This core is one of the best in the league, to, man, we look rickety. Man, our our players on the market, are the trade market. It's like nobody really wants Porzingis, Holiday, and Hauser to a great extent. Like, how do all these players who built the championship team all of a sudden have little value out on the market? And Tatum's gone for a season, and again, the massive question too is just, when are the Celtics contenders again? When are they contenders again? Is it 2 years from now when Tatum comes back, or is it 3 years? Is it 4 years from now? I mean, it could be that far. It could be that far down the road, for real.
Yeah, and I just wanted to ask, you already mentioned it. So David, what do you think? What outline are you kind of looking for Tatum? Like, do you see it kind of potentially being like, as Seamus just said, kind of like a John Wall career? Or do you think it'll go in the similar route of a Kevin Durant career where he could bounce back? What do you see from Tatum? Obviously, it's so unpredictable. It's not an injury where you're like, oh, say he broke a leg. Like, all right, he could probably make a recovery from this. But ruptured Achilles, this is a tough, like, and I know obviously we aren't like an NBA podcast, we're a Celtics podcast, but it's like the same talks that there was when Victor Wembanyama had that blood clot. Does he recover from this? What's your initial thoughts though? Where do you see Tatum when he comes back?
Yeah, so first of all, I 100% agree with Seamus in the sense that Tatum should not come back next season under any circumstances. I know there's the report that just came out from Mark Spears saying that Mark spoke to Tatum's father, and Tatum's father is saying it's an 8 to 9 month recovery timeline. I get it. Fully respect the fact that Tatum wants to get back onto the court as fast as possible, no matter when that may be. Heck, he may even look at Game 82 of next season and try and push to get on the court. But no, these are the things that we shouldn't be playing around with, because we don't want this to be a like Seamus said, something that if we rush him back, it could aggravate and potentially ruin his career even more, potentially moving forward. I think that the comparisons to Durant and how he came back from his injury are very accurate, in the sense that I think Tatum may follow that blueprint of maybe, unfortunately, not being a guy that's as explosive and focuses more on his shooting and being able to knock down the buckets rather than getting to the hole. That's something I missed out of Durant's game since he came back from his Achilles injury. Is I thought that he was one of the more exciting finishers right around the rim, And obviously the efficiency, I think, is up a little bit post Achilles injury, but just watching him, it's, he's only just mostly taking mid-range shots or 3-point shots. Maybe that's what we see with Tatum after the injury, but yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how Tatum is coming back from the injury. Obviously, stating the obvious with that, but maybe there's a whole season where he's dealing with. I mean, we don't even. I don't think we've talked too much about like the mental toll of it too, coming back
Yeah.
from an injury like that. Like that could take a whole season for him to recover from. I don't think we can make any judgments on what post Achilles injury Tatum looks like in 2026, 2027. I think we have to give it 2 or 3 seasons under his belt post Achilles injury to see what kind of player he's going to be and what kind of player we need to accept him to be as Celtics fans after a major injury like this. But yeah, I think that he's going to just focus more on his perimeter game. I mean, that's probably best case scenario if he can become more efficient there and become a certified bucket like KD's become. Obviously, it stinks. I mean, like we said, with him just sustaining this injury right when he was becoming into a full complete player in the NBA with the defense, the scoring, and the playmaking. So I mean, that sucks. There's no other way to look at it. But I would say we're looking at something like a Durant blueprint for, if I had to guess, for Tatum post Achilles injury. And it would not surprise me, as basically everyone has said in the NBA community right now, if Kevin Durant has already reached out to Jayson Tatum and helping him out with his Achilles recovery.
I'll add this too. Yep. There's just terrible photo. I mean, so all these photos are going to be in time. It's going to be hopefully one of those. Remember this crazy moment, because otherwise, I mean, these could be some true heartbreakers in NBA history. But what's also just so devastating about the Jayson Tatum's injury is just the fact that Jayson Tatum at this point in time, David was mentioning it. He's at the peak of his powers. I mean,
Yeah.
he was ascending upon I mean, he was already you could argue, I mean, 24-25 was the peak Tatum year so far. I mean, 23
Yes.
24 was great too, but this past year, I mean, he's going to be likely top 3 in MVP voting, maybe 4th. Giannis backdoor cover there at the end of the season, but we're talking about Jayson Tatum as easily a top 5 player this year, and maybe even a top 3 player and an MVP candidate. And now all of a sudden, I asked the question of, did we only see 1 year of peak Tatum? Did we only really see 1 year of peak Tatum? Like that is a possibility. 1 year of peak Jayson Tatum, that would just be devastating. And I'm not sitting here saying that's definitively the case or anything like that,
No,
but just
because
the
it
fact you know how many players in history like Tracy McGrady and Grant Hill, who unfortunately it's like they had similar play styles to Jayson Tatum in a certain way. Now they sustained other injuries, knee injuries and ankle injuries and whatnot. Even Penny Hardaway as well. Those guys, they're in a group of players where, Griffin, you were talking about it. What could have been? What could have been with Penny Hardaway?
look
What
at
could
like
have
the
been with Tracy
hero.
McGrady? What could have been with what name was I just? Oh, Grant Hill. Of course,
Yeah.
Grant Hill. Got to respect Grant Hill, who just looks like
Mhm.
Al Horford for some reason. It just I feel like those guys have the same demeanor too to them, like very professional, like all those. Yeah, very respect for Grant Hill, but Grant Hill, Tracy McGrady, Penny Hardaway, all of them. It's what could have been with these guys. What could have been if their careers don't, you know, if they don't sustain all these injuries in their career. Victor Oladipo, same way. Jayson Tatum, 1 year at his peak, and you could say yes, he had a couple seasons here where he was in the MVP conversation. I mean, already, if his peak is over as of right now, which is just harrowing to say, like it is just like it is terrifying to say that Jayson Tatum's peak may be over by this recording, by the time of this recording, but he already has, Ian termed it this way in our group chat. He was a Springfield type of resume already. where he's going to be in the Hall of Fame for what he's done. Won a ring with the Celtics, multiple All NBAs, All Star appearances. The numbers he's put up with the Celtics, just some of the best in NBA history, or I should say, some of the best in Celtics franchise history. And he was just breaking records time and time again. The Celtics team was breaking records time and time again these last 2 seasons. Tatum already has the resume of a top 10 Celtic of all time, a basketball Hall of Famer going to Springfield, Massachusetts. He already has the resume of that, but that's where this conversation gets into what more could Tatum have done potentially, and even this injury, what's so devastating, he's going to miss an entire season. I mean, some
What
of the
could
best
have been
players in
done in that
history.
season? It's like
There's
you were so close to MVP.
These are going to affect his career numbers over time, most likely. I mean, for totals, I mean, we don't really care, but it's like in time, it'll affect the totals, and it could affect his play just later on in time. And I asked the question of just, have we already seen peak Tatum? Like, has that era already ended? Like, we saw 1 year and I shouldn't even say 1 year of it, because you could say every year was peak Tatum. Every year was peak Tatum until the next year. But this past season was really Tatum coming out as this all around dominant force that we hadn't seen in the past, even in 23-24 when the Celtics won the title. This past year in 24-25, he came out as just the most complete Jayson Tatum we've ever seen. And that's why I just wonder, is that ever coming back? Because defensively, it's going to be tough to reach that same level again. Offensively, from just an attacking standpoint, it's going to be hard to reach that level again. And it's just a tough conversation to have, because you don't want to think of all the negatives, but at the same time, these are the questions that need to be asked: is can Tatum actually come back and be the same guy again? And it's unfortunate, because the question goes from what more can he do to can he do this again? But that's just what it is with every single one of these injuries, and it's been like that in NBA history when stars get injured, of course. And just looking at some notes here, I mean, yeah, Jayson Tatum. I'll say this. I want to mention this because I mentioned this on our other recording too. So, and this has been the stat that's thrown around a lot lately, but we'll just pinpoint it right here. 24,190 minutes. 24,190 minutes played since 2017-18 for Jayson Tatum. Jayson Tatum, including the playoffs and regular season, Jayson Tatum has played 24,190 minutes since the beginning of the 2017-18 season, which was Jayson Tatum's rookie year. So since Jayson Tatum came into the league, which leads the league, those 24,190 minutes in both the playoffs and regular season leads the entire league, ahead of stars like Nikola Jokic, James Harden, and then, of course, Tobias Harris, DeMar DeRozan, Pascal Siakam, and then our own two guys, Jaylen Brown and Drew Holiday. So Jayson Tatum, since 2017, has played the most minutes out of anyone in the NBA. Anybody in the NBA, Jayson Tatum, he has more minutes than everybody, playoffs, regular season, 24,190 minutes since he came into the league. And Jayson Tatum, he's been the most durable player really in the NBA since coming into the league. And now all of a sudden, he's just going to miss an entire season with one of the worst injuries in all of sports. And it's just, we talk about rock bottom, like, hey, don't talk about rock bottom because it could get way worse. But what happened in Game 4 was just, I mean, it was almost comically devastating. It was comically devastating. It was like, wow, you could not script this up any worse, right? I guess again, you could. We all say you could, but it's like the script could just be. I mean, it was just an awful way, awful way to end Game 4. Both the Celtics just collapsing the way they did, and then Jayson Tatum rupturing his Achilles, and now just the future of the outlook of the team. It went from we could go back to back 2-2. It's if we win Game 4, it's 2-2, best of 3. We can win that series. We can win the next series against the Pacers potentially, and we could win the NBA Finals over whoever comes out of the West. Now all of a sudden the Celtics, again, the question is just, when's the next time the Celtics find themselves in contention? And is it with Brown and Tatum? Is it even with the same duo that we've known for the past almost decade now to be in contention with the Celtics?
I want to say this, Seamus. I know we've been talking a lot of things because it is a big what if. But I'm going to say this, and I mean this. I think, well, first of all, I have to say this before I go on my little tangent. I have to say that I am very sickening by fans and stuff that think Tatum, bug this on and stuff. He was in physical pain. Like, I've never seen Tatum this hurt before. And he has been battling with some injuries this season. We've seen it. We've seen his wrist. We've seen his ankle, which happened back against the Kings. And we've seen he's had injuries with his ankle and his thumb before. But Tatum's been able to recover. He's been durable. But this is a big hit. And I love Tatum. Prayers for Tatum. I wanted to show this off earlier, too. I got the basketball back there and the Tatum shoes. You got them back there. But I gotta say this, and I want to make this a staple. I want to say, you look at Durant. Durant's a long, lengthy player. All right, he did have the explosiveness like Tatum kind of before his injury, but Tatum's been known for that. Tatum's been known for his explosiveness to the rim, and one of his notable plays dunking on LeBron. One of my personal favorites is when Tatum goes up and hangs on the rim and just swings. I love it. That gets the energy going, or his big threes. But look at the shirt. This is why I took off the jersey, because it says, "Look, good luck facing Jayson." Good luck facing Jayson. Do you want to hear why I'm wearing this? Well, for one, good luck for last time. But I want to also wear this because I have confidence. I have confidence that Tatum's going to come back and he's going to make a full recovery. And this shirt is still going to be a factor. Good luck facing Jayson. Because I'm going to be positive. We need to have positive thoughts in the air. I think there's a lot of negative that the Celtics, it's going to be rough. It's going to be a bridge year. Does Tatum come back to his peak? I'm going to say this. Yes, it's a long recovery. And David was talking about the mental toll of it. And it's just the fact that he's not going to be getting a lot of shots up because he's going to have to be resting and he's not going to be practicing because this is a long recovery. But I'm going to leave everyone off with a positive. And I think this should be a big factor. And we need to take this to heart, is what you have been mentioning, Seamus. All those other superstars had previous injuries. They battled through injuries with their career, and that was kind of just the nail in the coffin, But with Tatum, his injuries have been light, and I think, I wouldn't say light. I think Tatum pushes a lot of them. I think Tatum, he goes to his limits, but he's a durable player. And I do believe in my heart, and I pray for it. David and I, after, that heart injury, we still came on there and gave it a little. We were giving it that Tatum action, because we're bringing positive air into it. I believe that Tatum will come back and be a dominant superstar. Jeez, I couldn't say that. But I believe he will come back and still show dominance and show and build onto that resume. I still believe that we have a Tatum MVP in the future. I don't believe that he's going to fall off and become this what if player. I think there's going to be a what if about that season, and what if he could have achieved in the off season, getting better and just developing. But now he's going to have to build up a recovery and build back to what he was before. And that's a long, hard thought. I do think he's going to get back to what he was, but it's what he could have been, what he could have achieved. I do believe that we still will see a lot from Jayson Tatum, but it's that season. A season adds a lot to your career. It really does. If Durant never went down, we're talking about what could he have done in that season. That's going to be the talk forever. What could have Jayson Tatum done in the 25-26 season? However, we're going to have to say this. What is Jayson Tatum? I mean, not 25-26. Then we're going to have to come into the conversation. What is Jayson Tatum going to be in 26-27? And how is he going to come back from this injury? But I'm not leaving it on a negative, because I think there's been a lot of negatives for Celtics fans talking about the hardships that we're going to have to deal with this offseason and all of that. But I do believe Tatum is going to have a recovery, and I do believe that and I have faith. We have to have faith. We have to have faith right now. This is a time where Celtics fans need to have faith. I do have faith that Jayson Tatum is gonna still build onto his career, and I do see an MVP in his future. I do, and I do see more championships. Is that me being a delusional Celtics fan? Maybe a little sprinkle in there, but as a basketball standpoint too, from just his aggressiveness and his dire need to succeed, and his effort and his leadership and his durability, I do see Tatum building onto that resume. Any final thoughts though, Seamus, that you want to leave us on with Jayson Tatum before we close out the show?
Well, Griffin, even if Jayson Tatum comes back to the peak form in which we just saw him at back in game 4 at MSG, the question is still there, what could have been in that one season? Because
Yes.
even with Paul George, I look at a guy like Paul George, right? And, David, he was saying, game 82, Jayson Tatum will be trying to come back. That was how Paul George was. He broke his leg in the middle of the summer, just gruesomely, at a USA exhibition match in Las Vegas back in, I believe that was 2014, if I'm not mistaken. But 2014-15, Paul George comes back. He comes back and plays 9 games. It was six or nine, 6, 9, 6. I don't know, Gronk. But 6 games. I think it was 6 games at the end of the year. Came back. It was less than 10 games, regardless. Came back, played the final week or so of the season. But Paul George missing that 1 year. The question with him, even though obviously Paul George after that moment was awesome. I mean, come on, he was awesome with the Indiana Pacers as an all-star after breaking his leg. He was awesome with the Oklahoma City Thunder and even reached his peak of his career with the Oklahoma City Thunder in 2018-19. He was third in MVP voting that year. Paul George was truly spectacular that season, and he deserved that third place in the MVP voting in the rankings there. But Paul George reached the peak of his career after that broken leg, reached the peak of his career after. And he was awesome with the Los Angeles Clippers as well until we unfortunately saw the downfall this past season with the Philadelphia 76ers. Although if there was any team to witness that, I mean, Sixers, sorry about that. But anyway, Paul George, though, the whole point is Paul George, even though he was awesome, even though Paul George was a multi-time All-NBA, All-Star, MVP candidate after breaking his leg, the question still remains with Paul George. What could have been in that one season? Because we forget, Indiana, they were in the conference finals in 2013. Indiana, they were in the conference finals in 2013 and 2014, played the Heat both years. And then in 2015, instead of being there with Paul George and being like, oh, look, we're contenders, Paul George wasn't on the roster for most of the season, and they were the 9th seed and they missed the playoffs. And from that standpoint, people look back at that moment and go, what could have been if Paul George just stayed healthy and on the trajectory he was on as a young player? And not only with him, but with the Indiana Pacers, what they could have been as a franchise, because we all know later on in time, obviously the Pacers traded away Paul George for Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis, and that's another situation. Victor Oladipo, what could have been there with the Pacers? But Paul George, even though he was incredible after that injury, the question still remains, what could have been with Paul George? Could he have been even better from his peak in 2018-19? And could he have also been could he have also been in a better situation when it comes to, say, the Indiana Pacers? Could the Indiana Pacers have been in a better situation in 2015 and 16 and 17 if Paul George never breaks his leg? That's still going to be the same question with the Celtics later on in time. Is maybe the Celtics do win a title in 2027 when Tatum comes back, and the Celtics team is very good when Tatum comes back. The question is going to be, oh, what could have been if Tatum was only healthy in 26? Maybe we win the 26 title. I mean, it's always just going to be like that, regardless of Tatum, whether or not he comes back healthy and fully to his peak once again. But I don't doubt that Tatum, to me, the outlook of Tatum is, I think the Celtics are going to stay competitive next year. I think they're going to be in a spot to be competitive when Tatum comes back, just as, say, the Clippers were with Kawhi in 2020. I believe Kawhi missed, all of 21, 22, and then Clippers were in a spot to compete again in 23, 24, and 25. So we thought that was the end of Kawhi, or that was the end of the Clippers with Kawhi, and we've obviously seen now the Clippers haven't broken through the first round since then. But at the same time, every single playoffs they dupe us into thinking they are contenders until they go out in the first round, and so they're at least competitive. Is my point here
So
with the
the Celtics
Clippers.
will be,
But the Celtics, I believe they'll stay competitive and be in a spot to to contend potentially when Tatum comes back. It's just when Tatum comes back, it's going the big question is he going to be the guy? Is he going to be able to integrate back in with Jaylen Brown? How is it going to look? How are they going to bring Tatum back into the action after Brown's been the guy for an entire year? And at that point, it's if Tatum, I think Tatum will come back. I think he'll be an effective player. It's just the question of like where is the peak at? Is it going to be peak Tatum we saw this past season, or is it going to be a little bit under that? I think initially it's going to be a little bit under that, but afterwards that could change just a bit. Thinking, yes, he's still going to be 28, 29, 30 years old at that point in time, still very much in his prime. So I think the outlook is just the Celtics are going to stay competitive, and then when Tatum comes back, it's about how to integrate him back into that competitive roster, how to integrate him back with Jaylen Brown potentially. And again, we don't know what October 2026 is going to look like, but it's just how to bring them back within a competitive team, and just I think how to play with them too, because I just don't think they're going to be playing the same way and giving Tatum the usage right away as we've seen this past year and these past couple of years. I still think Tatum will be quite the effective player. It's just will it be at his peak level, or will it be just all-star level? Will it be just fringe all NBA level, or will it be pure first team? This guy is top 3 MVP candidate again. It's hard to say into the future. I don't doubt Tatum's going to come back and be good. It's just what level of good is Tatum going to be at? That's just my question for the future. But regardless, this injury, it's a moment in NBA history. It's a moment in Celtics franchise history, and it's just a dark, dark moment that we'll look back on someday and go, man, that for that to all happen and converge in one moment, that's just bad luck. That is just tremendously bad luck, and that those are just the cards that ultimately you're going to see sometimes as a fan of a team, and as an analyst and an observer of the team, as an owner of a team, as anybody associated with an organization, a team, in a what do you call it? An institution, right? If you're within an institution, there's always a possibility the pattern goes wrong. And unfortunately, the pattern for the Celtics right now is at a very uncertain place, but I don't doubt that in the future the Celtics can't come back from this. I don't doubt this that Jayson Tatum can't come back from this. And I'll say this, the next 2 seasons, they're going to be quite interesting. The last 2 seasons we've been kind of riding on just a lot of good. 2024 just dominated the whole season all the way to the very end where we were holding up the trophy. And then this season it was not so much of the same domination, but we were still very good. 61 wins. Still thought we were going back to back for most of the year, and then it all comes falling down in a matter of 4 games against the New York Knicks in the semifinals. But these last 2 seasons, there hasn't been too much to say about the team other than just need everybody healthy. We need a good seed, and we just need to compete, right? Now all of a sudden, I mean, these next 2 seasons, and particularly next season, this offseason going into the next season and into the 25-26 season, I mean, oof, get ready, folks. The content is coming because
Oh yeah.
there's gonna be a lot. There are gonna be many challenges the Celtics face on the horizon that we have not seen in the last 2 seasons. And for me personally, I'm ready to see those challenges yet again because even though it comes at just an unprecedented, unfortunate event in Tatum tearing his Achilles, the fact that the Celtics might need to go through some hardship here just to get to the next title, the next time in which they're contending. I mean, it could be, who knows, it could be a good thing. It could be a good thing that the Celtics press the hard reset button on this team right now and maybe formulate a team in the future that's ready to contend just as much as these last 2 teams were, 23-24 and 24-25. And we all know they were basically the same team, but these last 2 teams, they were there. They had a chance to win the title, and we got one title out of it. That's great. The Celtics, they won banner 18, but now in the future, you never know. This could be something that ultimately shapes out into something good for the Celtics later on in time, and maybe we see banner 19 as soon as 2027 or 2028. You never know, but I'm with you, Griffin. Putting the positivity, the positive vibes into the air right now. a lot of negative questions, a lot of skepticism right now around the Celtics and the situation. But let's face it, moving ahead, you gotta think positively. Yeah, that's what it's always been with the Celtics. The Hayward injury, the Kimba situation, Isaiah Thomas being traded for Kyrie, and just so many moments where you think in the past, ooh, the Celtics, they're going the wrong way right now. They're not 2021. Tatum and Brown are both injured at the end of the season, and Brown's out for the rest of the year. So many moments it goes one way or the other. The peaks and valleys of the NBA, the ebbs and flows of life and the NBA. It just right now, the Celtics are in a definite valley. They're definitely in the ebbs right now.
Mhm.
But to me, they've pulled themselves out of it before, and there's no reason to not believe that they won't pull themselves out of this going ahead into the future.
I love that. And I was going to say, I look at the 2009 Celtics and I'm like, ugh, we did the same exact thing. But you left us on a positive note, and I'm going to keep that going. Hold it up. I mean, good luck facing Jayson, because we're going to go positive. He's going to come back and he's going to be good. But that is going to do it for this episode. I know it's a depressing, heartbreaking episode that I never wanted to have to post this. I wanted, like you said, Seamus, I started into this content, this beginning of this regular season. I'm like, oh, it's going to be peak. We're going to have so many good vibes. It's going to be Banner 19. I get to show my love and show how supportive I was from Maine. I wasn't able to get to all those parties, but I'm going to show how big of a Celtics fan I am. And unfortunately, it all came crashing down at the end of the season, but still a game. So let's be hopeful, but join us for the recap and join us for the Celtics Talk Weekly post-game show. And in addition to that, episode 39 coming out tomorrow, probably, or in a day or two. We're going to get that rolling too. We had to get this out there. I mean, it's devastating news, and I think we should pull it up one more time. I do want to ask, this is kind of going to be my final question while we have this up, and it could be a short one too. What were your thoughts when Tatum posted this? I mean, you could see pain in his eyes, but do you have any thoughts? Were you kind of a sign of relief, or how did you feel when he posted this?
I mean, it felt the same as the Durant one. It felt the same as pretty well. I mean, it's good. It's good to see Tatum, right? It's good. That's like the first time we've seen him since he was crying in a wheelchair. So it's good to see, like, okay, he's okay, throwing up the deuces, and just good to see him awake. Really, just good to see him awake out of surgery. That's post surgery. It looks like he's doing okay. I mean, that's all I can take away from that is just the fact that for as terrible of an injury as he sustained and as devastating as it was, I mean, he's at least okay in a hospital bed right now. I mean, he's now on the road to recovery. So that's just the typical, you see him. Well, the last time we saw him was in a wheelchair crying, and now he's throwing up the deuces in a hospital bed. It's not the greatest sequence to ever see, but it is something we take. There's so many people out there who just took Jayson Tatum for granted, seeing his minutes, his games played, just him being out there every single night, then people hating on him across the league. Just they took him for granted and his greatness and what he added to the NBA. But what we also take for granted too is just the fact that these guys can be healthy and have the chance to even play basketball in the future because we've seen other occasions in sports. I mean, the Celtics. This is unfortunately not the biggest, the darkest, the biggest and the darkest moment in Celtics history. I mean, the two ones that you could point at, the two biggest ones, Lynn Bias dying a day after the Celtics drafted him, second overall, and then Reggie Lewis dying in the offseason in the 1990s. Those are some of the darkest days, truly, in Celtics franchise history. And even though just this Tatum injury is devastating, it doesn't quite reach those levels because of what we ultimately sometimes take for granted, which is just simply life, and just the fact that Jayson Tatum is going to have the chance to play basketball again. That's just great because so many times NFL, NBA, there have been times where players exit the court and you don't know what their status is going to be. You just have no idea. and it can be a little bit more severe than just simply, you know, a torn ligament that Tatum can officially, you know,
Come back from.
now he's on the road to recovery and can come back from. So it's just great to see him a lot. It's great to see Tatum alive. All right, folks. It's
Yep.
great to see Tatum alive and awake and throwing up the deuces and all right, because sometimes I think we just take that for granted. Is just general health that brings life. Sometimes we, you know, get caught up on basketball, but it's important just for Tatum to be sitting there, you know, able to talk to his mother and his child and his significant other there in the hospital bed. So just
I
looking at
do.
that perspective.
Yeah, and I pulled the graphic up again because I was going to close the show out, but I have one last question to ask you, and then we could close it out. But why do you think it took so long for this to even come out? Because we had no Tatum news all night, and we were waiting in the morning
I,
like
I think
crazy.
the obvious thing is they were waiting for him to literally undergo surgery because I mean, clearly people knew about it ahead of time. I mean, we were all speculating about it. We didn't officially know, but we were speculating. And then I think guys like Shams Charania and you had a couple of other like Brian Windhorst. I think a lot of these guys probably knew. I think ESPN knew. I think these outlets knew. But this is where I just want to point out for everybody: media today is about the most corrupt business out there. Okay, like media can be one, and that's what's great about Celtics Talk Weekly. We're not corrupted, folks. We can say whatever we want on this broadcast on YouTube here. For as you know, for YouTube guidelines, we can say whatever we want. But media is corrupt. All right, media is 100% corrupt, and I hate to say it, but ESPN, ABC, Disney, and TNT, Turner Sports, and all them, like you know, for as great of companies as they control some of the informational waves here between you know the Celtics and ESPN and the league. It's like they manipulate and control the information that's out in society. Because to me, Shams Charania simply can't just attain information and tweet it. He has to. It has to be in coordination with an agent, you know, a player's agent, a franchise, also with ESPN, and it goes in this big cycle of people before it's actually released. And that's what I think happened with this situation. It's well, no, he's going to have surgery right away. He had surgery literally in the morning thereafter. Like he tore his Achilles. I don't know if he ever slept or what was going on, but you know, after that injury happens, I don't know what happens. But then the next morning he has surgery, and then I think they were just waiting to just simply give out because otherwise they would have had two notifications. It would have been Jayson Tatum torn Achilles and then Tatum successful surgery. The surgery was kind of two birds with one stone. It was yes, he tore his Achilles, yeah, confirming that everybody saw it, we understood that, but also he underwent successful surgery for this already. So from that standpoint, it just I think it's the coordination thing more than anything else. Is just the Celtics organization, Tatum's camp. We all hear the players' camps, right? Tatum's camp, the Celtics organization, and then ESPN, Shams Charania, and whoever else has their hands on that information. I think it's just coordination of when that's going to be released. And I think the news cycle was what it was. It was in the middle of the day yesterday at I mean it was around what it was 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It felt like on a Tuesday. So it's just about releasing at the right time of day and letting the public know. I think it was about the media coordination when it comes down to the way in which we found out, and that's just the way media works sometimes. You know, it's
Yep.
not. If it was the if I believe if it was the 1980s, we probably would have heard about it maybe right away. We would have had a Dan Shaughnessy back there in the locker room, like, "Oh, I'm hearing about a torn Achilles," and then it's in the paper the next morning. I think that's probably more of the vibes of the 70s, 80s, 90s, and even 2000s. But in the 2020s, you have these big conglomerate corporations, and social media exists, and technology exists, and more restrictions and regulations are put into place, and there's more of a coordination between everybody. It's like it's not quite the same. There's more money involved nowadays. It's not quite the same as a long time ago when you could just speak freely. Today you gotta put a coin in the machine to speak what you want. But that's just how it goes. I mean, this is that's
What it
just
is. It is what it
we're
is.
starting the double big tonight, by the way. Porzingis back in the starting lineup for Game 5. As of this recording, Game 5 hasn't happened yet. So just FYI, folks.
Yeah. So
Don't know what happens in Game 5, but we're talking about Tatum today. Jayson
Yep.
Tatum. This was about Jayson Tatum. So
Yeah, well, I switched the graphic again. Sorry. Again, I know I did that, but I had more questions. But I think that's going to do it with our show. Again, I'm going to hold it up. Good luck facing Jayson for the 15th time. Am I right, Seamus? We're putting positive vibes out there. This shirt is still going to be relevant once Tatum makes his return because it's going to be positive. All right, we got to talk
he
some
can still be
positive.
the best player in the East when he comes back.
He can be.
Giannis is maybe on his way out, and it's like Paolo Banchero, Cade Cunningham, Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony
Jayson Tatum is
Towns,
up there too, though. Jayson Tatum is
Brown,
going to be up there.
Jalen Brown. But that's what I'm saying is Tatum could come back and still be the best player in the East, like instantly.
100%. And in the NBA, I'm saying in the NBA. I know that's a hot take, but we're positive. We're positive. All right, we're positive vibes. Good luck. That's positive vibes. Facing Jayson, it's positive vibes. But again, you guys, thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you guys for episode 39 coming out soon. But thank you guys again so much. We appreciate it. Prayers to Tatum. Prayers to Tatum. We will see you guys soon. Peace, y'all.